Right. I'm videotaping again. And I know you can see me in the background. Yes, yes, yes. And I don't feel like talking too much about these Democrat speeches. And in response, no, I hear a lot of Democrats that are coming out to speak. They just spoke tonight. And I don't feel like responding to a lot of them. I know they're kind of upset because I'm alerting African Americans to stay out of this fight and to remain neutral because we've had to fight for so long, and that now that there's a real fight going on that's against the non-Melanite people, and they're asking us to be a part of it. And we usually are the ones that don't get the benefit out of all these wars that are fought. We can go overseas and we still don't get the benefit. And I mean, just for the record, how many of you African Americans have joined Uncle Sam's war and gone overseas and been a part of it and then come back home to find that you only have to fight another war? So I'm going to say keep up the V sign, because you're fighting a war abroad and a war at home. So it's very vital that you should understand that right now we got a lot of crucial things on the pipeline. We're still trying to find out what's going on with the police brutality in our community. Why are so many of our men dying at the hands of the men in blue? We're still wondering why women have got to be incarcerated and dying in prison cells. We got real issues to talk about. And we're not talking about being an immigrant, because I want to set it for the record that African Americans are non-immigrants. And when they speak of putting up a wall to box out immigrants, we're not a part of that. And African Americans, don't you dare call yourself an immigrant. You're a non-immigrant. You were here when Christopher Columbus came. Now, I know that people will stand up and rally and raise their hand and raise their voices to the roof about issues that concern them. But when it comes to fighting for African Americans to get something, we very rarely have too many people that will march with us and that will lay down with us and be beaten for us for the namesake of African American. So I'm saying right now, because we don't know what kind of fight this is, because we've never fought the Ku Klux Klan. We usually steered away from them, but they oftentimes came after us. But now we got a fight where they are turning on their own people. This is a different kind of fight. So I say, before we go running into this fight, let us research what is the nature of this fight, and is there any repercussions and consequences that can come back on us? But I want you to know that we've got to strategize and think this thing through. I know a lot of us are into the mobilizers, summer resistance group, and when we are in these groups, that doesn't mean we're going to give our lives for these groups to stand up on these picket lines and be beaten. That means that we're going to be logical thinkers, and we're going to think, how does this benefit my community, and how does this make changes in my community for me and for my African American people? If it doesn't, then we have no business in that particular fight. But it's very vital that we understand that we have to pick and choose who our enemies might be. We have to practice kujichagulia, practicing naming for ourselves, defining for ourselves, and choosing who our enemies might be. We cannot just go and let somebody else choose our enemies for us, and we cannot just allow people to tell us who our enemies will be. We've got to be very conscientious about that. And I want you to understand that this is not being a coward, it's being smart. It's best to be smart and clever and know what your strategies are. So I'm going to say for the record Dr. Martin Luther King knew that the ultimate thing was African Americans needed to go downtown and get a check, because ultimately they never were given their 40 acres and a mule. Now, most people like to be paid up before they get out here trying to rally for other gifts and promises for other people. Most people like to have what someone promised them, and we were promised 40 acres and a mule, but we've never gotten that. At least the Native Americans were put out in areas where they owned the land and didn't have to pay taxes on it and receive the check from the casinos every month. We were never given anything, not even a bucket and a broom, not even the proceeds off of the crops that we harvest. So we are due some payback. Unfortunately, we are due some payback. And James Brown say, it's time for the big payback. And it's time for us to be rewarded if we're going to get out here and march in these streets. We cannot be doing them just for the fun of it. And if any of you out there just doing it just for the fun of it, you're putting your life on the line. Nobody's going to replace your life, and you will just be another statistic. So we know that it's vital. It's time to strategize. It's time to lay things on the line, to count up all the costs and see if it's worth the cost. Now I'm going to tune out here, but I'll be back at you again. Odabo. And Baba Booey to you, y'all.